Namaste, my name is Sanat Kumar. Welcome back to the Manana podcast. Manana is a Sanskrit word that means reflection or contemplation. In this podcast, I'll be sharing my deep, insightful reflections for you to contemplate and hence live a life of fulfillment. I hope you find great value in today's episode. Many musicians are forgetting this. Again, this is a block from my archives of my note taking system. I think it has become our natural tendency as humans. We tend to forget why we even got into anything. People get into science, but they forget it's about curiosity. They forget it's about seeking clarity, seeking the truth. People get into earning money and forget it's about freedom and gets deviated by overworking, hoarding, and greed for more. People get into spirituality and forget it's about the journey, instead gets confused with words like attainment. People get into religion and forget it's about faith, hope, and surrendering and other values that must align in your life. Instead, they get into delusion and superstition. In fact, humans get into this world with a purpose of their own, align with the consciousness, but wanders, distracted towards everything his horse minds race towards. This trait, this trait of natural tendency to deviate from what we first intended to, I think this trait has helped us evolve and innovate. True, because we end up mixing thoughts and ideas of different genres when we no longer remember the purpose of its use. One example is like how Coca-Cola's original purpose was to combat anxiety, headaches, and drug dependence. So what is Coca-Cola now? But at least we must be aware that we are entrapped by this trait. If we are aware, we can choose not to be entrapped, right? So today we are talking about music, or in general art. Music is the effect and cause of expression. Every art is so, right? Art is about expression. It is about experience. So in music, notes, ragas, etc. are just the signs of music. When I say science, it is the practicality of the music, how you understand, how you prefer to understand it. That's all. Music is way abstract. You are trying to make it logical. Nothing wrong about it. What I'm trying to say is music is way expansive than these parameters of it, right? We use notes just to perceive and convey the working of music. But this awareness of the working has very little to no effect on the expression, the music itself. That is why you might have heard or you might have seen people without knowledge of music theory who can make and play music similar to those who have learned. And of course, the opposite is also true. There are some PhDs in music who tend to sing very badly. I have accompanied them. So, learning the science may help you a little bit. Learning the practicality or the theoretical part might help you a little bit, definitely a lot, probably sometimes, but it is not the way you see it, right? It is not the way you approach it every time you're trying to express it, express music, express emotions, experience music. You should not see music as swaras or talas or anything of its parameters. You should be seeing it as very abstract. You should be seeing it as the emotion it wants to convey, you want to convey, right? Because the basis of music is entirely different. It is that of experience. Music is not about intelligence, it's about experience. See, I don't want to make this sound cliche. What I'm trying to say is, sure, intelligence helps, it makes you understand music, but use intelligence only to understand music, not to experience and express music. When you're performing or when you're creating or when you're listening, you're just experiencing it. You're not intellectually reasoning it out. Don't do that. Because as I said, the basis of music itself is experience and expression. I repeat, music is not about intelligence, it's about experience. The experience then, of course, leads to the ultimate spiritual destiny. And we know that spiritual destiny, in the sense, it is journey itself, and how music helps spirituality. But let's talk that some other time, some other episode. For now, all I am saying is intelligence adds very little to the experience. And in fact, sometimes it can take away the experience after knowing. Sometimes you might have heard too much classical music, and it might annoy few people. And it doesn't annoy me because I know what is happening intelligently. I know what is happening in that music. But to people who does not know music, that artist is not touching him. So if some person does not know music, is he void of the right to experience it? That's my question. So if you are an artist and your music does not touch a person because only because he does not know music, then is it justice? Moreover, wouldn't you be more fulfilled if even without knowing music, that person experienced joy, ecstasy, right? That would be the ultimate fulfillment. And moreover, we must not get entangled with the parameter of something so divine and expansive as music, right? The parameters is just a parameter. It is not expansive as music. We must not be entangled with mere tools like math in music, right? We must not forget why we are listening, practicing, playing, singing, and making music. That is experience, that is expression. If we focus on what music is truly based on, that is experience, we can do better at it. We can do a lot more better at it. Don't you think so? And this applies to all art forms. All art forms are based on this. They're based on expression and experience. I hope you received excellent value in today's episode. To know more, head over to sanatkumarnabi.com, and if you haven't already, check out my book, The Flower of Fulfillment. Thank you for listening, and I wish you have a great day.